So, getting on to the next panel, as I mentioned before the break, what we're really trying to do is to continue the conversation, but extend out our time frame a little bit. Well, not a little bit, a lot. So we don't just look at the current issues, but we also look at the industry going out to, say, 2040. So I'm delighted to have on the stage two very good friends and deep thinkers about the industry. So first of all, Lie Qing is the CEO of Huaxin Cement. Huaxin Cement is part of the Holcim Group and has a cement capacity of about 120 million tons, most of that in China, but with a growing and significant presence outside China in Central Asia and Africa and the Middle East. So Lie Qing has a background as a cement specialist. I don't think I've ever found a question that Lie Qing couldn't answer when it was relating to the cement industry, or indeed many other subjects as well, such as the tax system in medieval Switzerland and other things that I don't know why he knows the answer to. And similarly, Matthias is also, we could call him a cement polymath. So Matthias is the CTO of KHD. Of course, KHD you all know very well. And Matthias, I think you all met last year, and you'll see more of him a bit later in the conference, as indeed you will of Lie Qing. So Matthias also has really an encyclopedic knowledge of the history of the cement industry and the history of cement technology. And so I think the two of you together, I'm afraid you're going to agree on too many things. I'm really hoping you won't agree on everything. Okay, so we have to try and find difficult questions that you can disagree on. So let me sit down and kick things off. So maybe Matthias, I can start with you, and just paint a picture for us in terms of the challenges that you see the industry facing, going out another 10 or 15 years to 2040, and how you think the industry maybe should change or even can change to respond to that.
Yeah, not an easy question to start off with. What are the challenges? I mean, we all know from the actual things when we watch the news that there are lots of geopolitical challenges coming up which have the potential to change everything completely, everything we discuss aside the geopolitical problems we're facing these days. So I will concentrate on the technological and commercial and economical challenges coming with the transformation. Actually, transformation is the key word here. Actually, I'm dealing with these things of decarbonization already some 15 years, and I think it is first of all necessary to really understand that we are in a transformation with everything that goes with it. I mean, decarbonization is one thing, digitization is another aspect. The cement industry is in a deep transformation, and the depth and the width of the transformation is much bigger, wider, and deeper than anything the cement industry has ever seen before throughout this whole history. And additionally, this transformation is going to take place in a period of time that corresponds to maybe half of the regular lifetime of a cement plant. Mm-hmm. So we are confronted with the biggest techno-commercial changes we've ever seen in a time frame that is, for ordinary cement guys, maybe too fast. Mm. So from this, there is a multitude of challenges. I'm only giving a very few here in the beginning, and maybe we can, of course, discuss much deeper in all detail. But first of all, the technology. However, I believe technology is the least of our challenges. Although it's true, many of the technologies we are going to apply, especially from 2030 onwards, are still to be developed. We are having lots of technologies which we're going to need in technology readiness levels below 7, while we need 8 or 9 to be applicable at scale. But I'm pretty confident that we can develop these technologies. I believe much more of a challenge is to materialize the whole process of a transformed cement industry with new business models, new players stepping up onto the stage, new cross-industry sector coupling processes which we have to develop. This is going to shake up the price levels. This is going to shake up the value chains. This is going into huge transformations. I mean, I hope we can discuss deeper. I'm just sticking to the surface here at this time.
Okay. Thanks for that. So, Yiqing, the same question to you, really. What do you see the challenges that we face in the next 15, 20 years? You have to, that's it. Yeah.
Thanks, Ian. Yes, yeah, you're right. It's just the last two and the people and the two group of people already mentioned. It's a big challenge for the cement industry in the next, the next 30 and 40 years. Actually, it's cement. Cement is and cement making the concrete is building material. From my point, it's amazing the material in the last 200 years for the human growth. We built the very modern, like the bridge, like the housing, like the railway, the airport, anything is modernized. We could find another material can replace our cement material because the cement is much cheaper. They can very easily produce in the global almost everywhere, and locally we can find the raw material and produce cement, and cement to the site with aggregates, with water and the mixture. You can making any you needed the material. So some other material we said is can place, but however, the global and the human and the people and would like the development his life, improve the live life, you should be use the material like cement. We compare others industry like the steel industry, replace the cement, little, very, not so easily. Similar is still the industry, of course, it emissions the carbon. And others, the chemical, similar. The wood, yes, but it's very difficult. Some place like, around the Middle East, it's not so more. However, another thing is for the next 40 years, the big challenge is the carbon. The carbon emissions, everybody know it's cement industry, the carbon emissions is number 3 in the global. The first is generate power by the coal, and the second is a steel industry, and the third is our cement. It's properly occupy. It's 12 to 15% the carbon emissions. It's a big challenge for this one. What we can do, the decarbonation. Some major country, and include China, the next 30 or 40 years, and reduce the demanded, decreasing the demanded, of course. But another emerging country should be the growth is cement, the demanded. Compare the global development. For my opinion, as I remember, it's 30 years ago, the Dubai is not so modern, but currently, huge. It's more than the city. Everywhere they need the development, but what is we can do the cement? But what with the challenge? Carbon emissions. And secondly, is a big challenge for us. We already know that you mentioned is the last panel is overcapacity. Some the area like the China is overcapacity is much stronger. Of course, UAE same. But how we can making the balance? We have two challenges. One challenge is the carbon emissions. Another challenge is how we can improve the carbon emissions decrease, and we can decarbonate. We need the capex. The capex, if not profitable for currently the cement enterprise, how is get money to invest to improve the decarbon emission. So next 40 years, we can say is for my vision for the strategy. Demand of the cement in the global could be keep the 3 to 4 billion. Some countries, as emerging countries, should be the growth, like the Indian and the African, some place like the South American. Another place like the China, of course, and the European and the North American, the demand could be done. This means it's a balance. It's some is increase, some the decrease, and making the balance. So it's the first. And the second, I said, it's very difficult for some the emerging country to the mature country like China, like the Middle East area and some the Southeast Asia. What is we can do? Find a way, making the balance profitable and decarbonation. It's my opinion. It's my industry the big challenge. First is the technical. We can find some development and innovation, some new technology. It's to reduce very limited everywhere. We can reduce emissions of the carbon. Another side, CCUS, no way, no choice. We should develop this technology to bottom line, to guarantee our carbon and the emissions zero the carbon, is my opinion.
Okay. So Matthias, maybe come back to you on the technical side of things, or the technological side of things. If we jump forward to 2040, what will be different about the cement plants, or especially the newly built cement, if there are any newly built cement plants or newly upgraded cement plants, what will they look like?
Yeah, that's a good question to start with. Newly built or upgraded. Personally, I think we will see some newly built, but not too many, because we have a huge population of assets around, and they are not going to be wasted. So you asked specifically 2040. 2040, we will probably be in a phase of increasing intensification of carbon capture installations. Due to our probably genetically prepositioning of procrastination, I'm afraid that we will not kick it off in 2030 to a degree which we should, probably because the downstream value streams of CO2 will not have been established yet, I guess, because it wouldn't make any sense to install a multi-million, three-digit million industrial facility to capture CO2 if you don't know what to do with it afterwards. So that is a huge problem I've been addressing earlier as well. So I think in 2040 we will be at that dynamic stage of retrofitting capture plants to cement plants, and we will do so with technologies which probably they have to bring mitigation costs down into a level of, say, 40 to 50 US dollars per ton captured. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible. At this moment, we're far away from that. It's much too expensive with the existing technologies today. As I said earlier, we will be working, and I know our company, myself, and a lot of other people, intelligent people, are working on developing technologies that will make carbon capture techno-commercially feasible. Means we should be targeting at 40, 50 US dollars per ton CO2 captured. And for that, we need concentration technologies. So we need to not only flange on, say, amine scrubbing carbon capture technologies behind the stack of a cement plant, we need to concentrate the CO2 to levels which makes it easy to capture. We have one technology existing today which is ready to use, oxy-fuel, which is, say, replacing the combustion air with either recirculated exhaust gas or even gets along without recirculation in total. So you use pure oxygen to oxidize your fuels and then create a rather concentrated CO2 off gas, which makes capture much easier. This is the only technological contender we have today, which we believe will be applicable within a short period of time. But I dare to say that this will not be the end, because still oxy-fuel requires pure oxygen, and that again is quite expensive. So we think about all kinds of different things like indirect calcination, electrification, and a lot of other things in order to develop technologies that make capture feasible, which will then, I expect to be a big rush in 2040 to retrofit that to the existing plants.
I mean, I guess one of the contexts for your comments there are the time from, let's say, announcement to commissioning of a carbon capture project seem to be, what, 7 years or something like this?
Yeah, that is one of the big problems. We are used to executing projects like this in a time frame of, say, 5 to 7 years. And if you don't have that technology available, which you have to decide on investing into, makes it even harder. Yeah. So we have to get going now, piloting, and there are lots of, maybe 24 of capture pilot projects available or on stream worldwide, but most of them are capturing only a partial stream. Yes. Yeah. As I said earlier this morning, because the available waste heat resources which you need in order to operate the capture is sufficient only for maybe 10 or 15%. But we are going to capture everything, all of the CO2 emitted, and that requires complete new energetic coupling. So probably we won't set up a hot gas generator, coal-fired, producing additional CO2 in order to capture the CO2. So, and we're going to see a lot of peculiarities for specific projects because of their logistic connection. Some of them will be connected to a pipeline, some of them not. Some of them will be having access to certain materials which you would need for the decarbonizations, others not. So it's going to be a very variable field of technologies to be applied in all of those, say, 4,000 cement plants and kilns which we are bound to decarbonize.
So, Yeching, when you look at the carbon capture technologies, which of those look most attractive, economic, feasible to you?
Yes. From my point, is the combination, the process, we need to set the two-step. It's, of course, it's CCUS is the next, but now, you know, it's, the measure already mentioned is the cost, not so economy, you know. And firstly, from my point, is currently the cement, the plant, the operation, the cement process, the cement plant. We need to do now is a decarbon. For example, is the fuel, the burning the fuel, the consumption. And firstly, it's an alternative, the fuel, replace the fossil, the fuel is so very traditional. And some the mature country like the Western European and Japan and much higher, and we call the TSR. It's some Western European country achieved as 70 to 90%, but mainly is emerging country like the China and the Indian and others emerging countries. We said could be very low. The China below the 5%. I think it's a big, it's gaps we can catch up. To do this, the technology, we can reduce the fuel, it's fossil fuel emissions. And the second is, it's like the modify and some upgrade is the technology. We can increase currently the cement process efficiency, thermal efficiency. It's the power consumption, the thermal consumption, we can reduce about 20%. Some place not so much, but many places we can say it's more than 10 to 20% we can. Third is we can developing the clinker factor, the reduce the clinker, its factor is it's already mentioned like the HC3. But in China, it's mainly the steel the plant and the firepower is plant. We have mainly, slag and flash and others chemical. The industry will have another some the slag. We can make sure is for the cement. This one we said is very the normal is very quick can improve. And another thing is that like the concrete. It's a concrete is use the cement. For example, in the US STM, the stand, they always say we use 95% or 90% of clinker, the pure, that's what we call the P1, it's the cement. Why we didn't use the mixture and with the material, the clinker factor reduced from 90% to the 70% maybe low. And we developed our concrete technology can achievable the similar performance, but clinker factor much low. But some area not so more, the mixture, the material, like this emerging country African, not so more the relevant industry. We need the development, LC3, the technology. We can increase our cement output, but decrease our clinker consumption. We call the first step. And next step, as Matthew already mentioned, is capture the carbon emissions. But this is not our, cement industry innovation. We need some, chemical and some industry for the technical. The industry to develop how we can use we can try the different way we can capture the carbon, how we can reduce the cost. For my point is if the future is capture the carbon, the cost from the 40 to 50 US, reduce to the 20. Another maybe the storage. It's another, we're thinking, and the user and the storage, similar the trouble and the problem. What for my thinking, like the Middle East and African, more the desert, it's ground for the solar energy. This is the solar, the generate power, the energy. It's very easily, and we can use the power to the liquid and for the sea, the liquid to produce the fuel, the liquid. Like the hydrogen and ammonia. We use this the fuel replace the fossil the fuel. We can almost zero the carbon emissions. For the power generated, we thinking it's a big potential. part of another industry. But for we can use this clean energy and clean the power to produce the cement. This is, from my point, it's very easily quick to development and the user in our industry. And the CC carbon capture and the development the capture the carbon to produce others, the chemical material and ammonia. We hear some information about the economy, but we can wait. We can wait for my point, the next 10 years, maybe have the good, the amazing, the innovation, the technical come. That time, maybe the cost is cheaper and the efficiency is very high, and we install the whole system in our cement, the king and the system. This much easily. But now, huge the capex, big operation cost, and low the cement price. No profitable, pay more. It's a big challenge. Maybe we can talk in another issues, how we can set up the mechanism, the system, the carbon the trade. You already mentioned the European carbon price, trade price, already achieved the 100 US. We calculate maybe it's profitable to install the capture for carbon capture, CC, and more encourage development, the technology, mainly the technology company innovation put more the invest and developing the technology. But how is giving the feedback? They need money to develop. If cement plant lost money, what is happen? I think not the short responsibility, not should long term can keep running.
Yeah, so I think in Europe, I think rather fortuitously, I don't think that the European carbon trading scheme was designed to help cement companies. When it was designed, I don't know, 25 years ago, something like this, I'm sure that the people who designed it didn't have in mind that they wanted to help cement companies. But of course, that's actually the way it worked out for various reasons that we don't need to go into too much. But the cement industry in Europe has benefited a lot from the ETS and continues to do so today, in addition to benefiting, as we talked about earlier, from the grants. So we can see that there is at least a precedent for this kind of government intervention to have a positive impact on the industry and to generate enough profits to invest. Matthias?
Yeah, however, Ian, we have to take into consideration the present benefiting of the European cement industry is maybe only in this phase.
Yes.
They still have the massive investments ahead of them. In 2026, the EU will start crunching down the allowances. And the hard time is going to come up then.
Yes.
So we have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is absolutely true. But if we go back 5 years or so, perhaps a bit longer than that, 6 or 7 years, then I think we probably would have said, the golden years are past at that point, right? But actually, they turned out to be ahead. So the ETS has not functioned in the way that people expected it to. So this is because it's new, and people didn't realize some of the ways that it interacted, for example, with the financial crisis in the first place.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It one more time teaches us that predictions are very hard to make, especially if they concern the future. I agree. When these plans came out 25 years ago, everybody was thinking, now this is the absolute catastrophe. This will never be serving as a basis for our business, right? Meanwhile, I believe that although it wasn't intended like that, Meanwhile, I believe this is opening the door into a field of business activities which provides a huge potential for the industry. To what extent that could be used by the cement industry is not clear now, but if you look at how, for example, big oil companies are getting into the cement industry with the vision to take the carbon from their stack and develop a complete value chain for carbon, either transforming it into fuels or transforming it into products, carbonaceous products, whatever, closing the carbon cycle into a carbon circularity economy, which is a huge step for mankind in terms of the evolution of industrial and economic business that man is doing. And if you take a look at the estimations that have been set up by several institutions and organizations about how much is going to be invested in the transformation until decarbonization has been reached, the numbers go up to trillions. And now the big question is, do you look at these investment of trillions as a burden, or are you considering that all that money needs to be spent to the benefit of a company behind it? So this is a huge field of economy opening up. And the question for the cement industry is, are we taking part in this? Do we take our share in this? Or are we leaving it to somebody else?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, Yecheng, let's just move on to the sort of commercial implications of these technological changes. So if we think about how cement plants compete today, you know, you've got the cost base, you've got the proximity to the raw material, the proximity to market. Some of that is going to change when, if you, as both you and Matthias have been talking about, have a situation where you're capturing the carbon and then using it or storing it, then clearly the cost of the storage or the opportunities for using it to make value-added products will become critical to the overall profitability. So I think this must change the structure of the industry. Perhaps some plants that today are very competitive will be less competitive, and other plants that today are not so competitive will gain. I mean, how do you see that playing out in terms of the structure of the industry?
Yes, big challenge. It's, you know, we are the cement industry, the enterprise. But how is making the regular and the rules for the, not say it's one country government, because your carbon emissions in the global, not say it's just your country and another country. For my point, is whole global. It include the WCA and others. You know, is national is a unit. Should be collect every country set up the role. How we can control, how we can the mechanism, the carbon trade, the system to everywhere. You know, carbon tax, of course, in the European already achieved that. And the North American, we find they pay the tax of the carbon. But how for the global, how we can do? From my point, we need set up the global system. You know, this is for China is maybe next year is could be trying the carbon trade for the cement and for the steel and the aluminum, maybe chemical. China government is very, you know, the ambitions to contribute is for the decarbonization in the global. But other countries, we think it should be the follow. This is very important. If we didn't do this system, maybe the company install and put the invest to capex and to do the cost, but not the payback. And the market, the customer not focus, as your low carbon emissions, the product we give you, the promo, the price. No, he said, oh, same. The European we can try and find some samples. Maybe me is not so the extent for deep understand for the European. We just here some the samples. We find it's a little bit the good the measurements to develop the commercial system. In my point of view, is the trading. It's from each country to another country. Maybe have some barrier for the carbon. Yeah. The carbon you need to pay the carbon the tax to your country and to another country. Of course, the cement is almost locally produced and locally use the system and the industry. But trade we need and making the balance, the demanded and the suppliers. But however, we need to set the system. One is to hold the global the carbon emissions is a trade and pay a tax. We collect this tax, we can contribute some the emerging country or some the little bit poorer country to develop. Because this emerging country is not so more, it's pay is high the price for the cement, and they said we need the low cost, we need development our the resident, the people, the life, we not so much money. Okay, some rich country or major country collect the carbon tax, they can contribute to the development, the emerging country, and give them the compensation, and they need buy the carbon tax the products. So this is system, and secondly, we can set up the market the drawing to the reduce to the decarbon the system automatic, because everybody thinking you pay the tax of the carbon tax, you should be the increase your cost, and the development the decarbon the company have a more powerful and more the benefit to do, because we sell your technology, we get the profit. Every company should install the decarbon the system and capture the carbon the system. So for commercial, I think this is maybe we can thinking this way. It's a long time. It can do automatic.
Yeah, I mean, I think this question that you are raising, the need for everybody to move forward, is definitely something we're going to see more. I'm not sure, Matthias, if you see this in Germany, but certainly in the UK, support for decarbonisation has been very strong across the whole political spectrum. The main parties in the UK have supported this for many years. But we start to get some complaints from the people about the cost of doing this. And so the political support for reducing carbon emissions is definitely getting weaker. And the complaint that people make is, we've already done a lot, and other countries are not doing anything. So it's a global problem. It doesn't make any difference if we do, but nobody else does. So I think the political support we need for the kind of policies that you're talking about also requires sort of the whole world to move forward. And if we don't have that, it will destroy the political will to make progress.
Ian, that is one of the biggest psychological problems we're having. Honestly speaking, everybody who is concerned about climate change and concerned about turning this challenge into a benefit can only hope that those conferences on global political scale will start to get more traction and to push it harder to the governments, and the governments to push it harder into their economies. And there's a lot of course, well, take a look at what we're at right now. We are at maybe the biggest transformation mankind has been in. For more than 2 millenniums, our wealth was based on combustion, right? And we are going to change this. We are about to witness the change. We are going to close the carbon loop. For millions of years, we took carbon from the ground, oxidized it, and released it into the atmosphere. This is now going to be over. We're going to take the carbon that has been emitted earlier into the atmosphere and put a price tag on it. As soon as there's a price tag on it, it becomes a regular line in the balance sheet for cost and profit. So this is changing the whole economic system we've been used to working on for millenniums, right? And this is what we are going to face in the next 20, 25 years. So people naturally don't get it. People have a hard time to get it. And then arguments come up, like in Germany as well. You know, we're only good for 2% of the CO2 emissions. So why should we do all this? But now if you drill deeper, if we're importing all of our consumer goods from China, and China is emitting the CO2 emissions for our goods, then all of a sudden Germany is no longer good for 2% only, but for I don't know, 10%, right? Yeah. So people need to start thinking about these things, and they naturally are procrastinating, and we need some governmental force.
Yeah, so I think we've seen in Europe and in America two different models that has stimulated business in different ways. You know, one with the carbon pricing and one with the tax credits. So it gives us some hope that systems can be invented. Yecheng, I know that you're involved in discussions in China about how to bring about a lower carbon future in cement in particular. Do you see different ideas being used in China, or is it the same concept as you see elsewhere?
For me, I think China is it's a set up the new system. I think we need more some experience and some the best practice for the European. European, of course, is the carbon and the carbon trade and the carbon measurement system is very, very well, and the learning and get more experience to the China system. I think it's very, very important.
Okay. Let's see. Let me open it up to questions from the audience.
Joe Harder, One Consulting. So, Matthias, I like your statement that you say, let me say, take the challenges or use the challenges as to make profits and so. But I think the situation until 2040, it will go already earlier, so we will have winners and losers in that time period. And I will just give you one example. And I would like to have your statements on my example then. So you see the situation is, we have some small producers. Let me say we take Europe as an example, because in Europe we see that the discussion is on the forefront, so to say. And the small producers, they just say, okay, we produce cement, we sell cement, but we sell also other products like mortars and other cement products, etc. And they say, we can't think that we will produce clinker anymore by, let me say, 2035 or so. They say we can't produce clinker anymore because we cannot invest in these CCUS technologies, and we have to pay a high price. So what we will do is either forget about our business or doing something for our future generation, for their own children, and so they will import clinker by the carbon border adjustment mechanism from somewhere around the world, and then they will continue to produce their products. Yeah? And the final statement by these guys is they say the cement price in Europe will go up from 120 euro per ton to, they say, something what sounds quite difficult to understand, to 250 euro per ton. Mm-hmm. So my question is to both panelists, what can you learn from this discussion?
Yeah, very good question. I have tons of information on that. First of all, we are participating in an EU-funded research project, and one work package deals with the question, what happens if the cement price doubles? And the outcome is the infrastructural project, what you need the cement for, punches through to less than 2% only. Second, adjacent information to that, cement and concrete are the two building materials which we take with the lowest embedded carbon and lowest embedded energy. And you know, cement is absolutely indispensable for mankind, absolutely indispensable. That is also important to understand, but cement has to decarbonize. Now, what would I tell these relatively small companies in Europe, which we have, some of them cement producers? I would ask them to start thinking in wider dimensions. It all depends on the individual case, that is very clear. But we touched this subject earlier. This new price tag on CO2, which is a price tag that is higher than the total aggregated production costs so far in conventional cement production. This new price tag will change everything. Yep. And it will specifically change the performance situation of each and every individual plant. Plants that have been totally unperforming in the past may be the top performer in the future because of their logistic accessibility to this and that, or to dispose of this and that, because of a ton of reasons. Second thing, so I would tell them to start thinking wider, not thinking only about the necessary investment cost, but also the benefits that come with it. I am these days talking to a lot of oil companies. Oil companies are interested in the exhaust gas of a cement plant. And you know, there are lots of ideas. And for example, in connection with such an oil company, the operation of a cement plant can be very economically successful, even if the cost for cement production triples. So it's far too easy and short-sighted to say, okay, if my costs go up double, then I can close my factory. This is too short thinking, and if we think like that, then others will make a good benefit of it, and we will lose our cement plants without real necessity.
Yeah, I think also you can imagine, as we talked about earlier, that you have a decarbonized clinker coming from countries that have very low energy costs, where they can effectively make a profit at the market carbon rate. And so this is also perhaps one of the options. Arno.
Sorry. Arno Binatel. A question perhaps mainly for Matthias. We have listed roughly 2,400 cement plants in the world, if we include 800 modern kilns in China. And if we look at the period, let's say 2030-2050, to decarbonize these plants, we have roughly 240 months. So 2,400 plants, 240 months means 10 plants per month if the industry wanted to decarbonate all the cement plants worldwide. And you mentioned that currently CCS project can take up to 5 to 7 years. So my first question is, how can the equipment supplier deliver such an effort in such a short period of time? And even if we were considering that based on the roadmap of the Cement Association, the clinker factor by 2050 will be 50%. But even if we divide by 2 this amount, even if the cement industry is closing half of the world plants, it's still on the paper, something like 5 per month, which is more than 1 per week. So how do you deliver that?
Yeah, very good question. I have no answer to that precisely, like I have no answer to a lot of other questions. I think the general thing is we have to embark on this journey, and we'll have to find a way solving it along the way. And market mechanisms have always solved this. I mean, if there is business to make in equipment supply, and honestly speaking, At this moment, I don't know whether KHD will take benefit from it, because we will be probably talking about plants for capturing CO2. So it's other companies like Linde and Air Liquide and all these companies who will maybe make much more business with it. And I think they will be able to deliver it. I also believe for that reason we will be not looking at massive new plant installations. We will look at modifications in order to get it done. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, partly, thank you very much. But it's still, for me, on the paper, it's still a race for the producers to be, not to be on your waiting list at the end of the day, and to be the first mover should be an advantage.
Yeah, but again, I repeat, the biggest challenge is not installing those technological plants. The biggest threat for this endeavor is not to organize the downstream value stream of the carbon, because you're not going to invest 150 million euro for a capture plant without knowing what to do with the carbon. And that is the real challenge.
Thank you very much.
Jack?
No, I just have a comment. I worked in the oil and gas industry for 30 years before moving to cement, where I spent almost 10 years. And I had these kind of discussions with oil companies or licensors about this CO2 capture. The big problem we have when we talk of cement plant is that cement plants are often in remote places. You can work on these big projects by Air Liquide, by Linde, by all those kind of companies when you have your cement plant close to a petrochemical complex. When you have a regular cement plant somewhere in a country, you can capture the CO2. But what I think is very important is to see how you can use the CO2 close to this plant. If you have to transport it by pipes, if you have to bring it thousands of kilometers away, it will never work. So I think we have to think of how you can use the carbon locally, not think big, but think small, and adapt it to the cement plants.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. And of course, that implies a complete change in which plants are competitive, as we were talking about earlier. Other questions? Please.
Appreciate the panel. Dan Stack, Electrified Thermal Solutions. I just had a kind of high-level question about circular CO2 economy. Maybe a bit loaded question, but can it be circular if we keep extracting more CO2 from the calcium carbonate long term? Or how do you think about the carbon balance, maybe past 2040 at that point?
I got it. Maybe I start, and you can support me later on. That's a good question. That is a known question. That is a question that relates to the big discussion about what means net zero. Doesn't add any combustion-related CO2 to it. We would still be emitting CO2 from the limestone. That is true. On a wider scale, even that could be captured. And if you take a look at the chemical industry, for example, they need to defossilize. They discuss the same thing like we do from the other side. They say from 2050, we're not allowed anymore to take any fossil carbon for our processes. So they need the emitted carbon dioxide transformed into a way that they can handle and use. So this is the main technological and business bridge we have to build to connect the emissions from the cement industry to whatever other industries need as carbon resource.
Perfect. I don't know if you want to add anything.
We said is yes, you're right. It's zero the carbon emissions for cement is a big challenge, and not only for the technical, but also we find we need the relevant industry to support the cement industry. Of course, it's no choice. Developing the CCUS, developing our cement process, and we can reduce our emissions. We can developing the system. We can emissions carbon is easily to capture, of course, any, and we can find maybe I don't know. It's mainly the the real, science to development.
Okay.
Bassam Ali from Chaos State, Saudi Arabia. Thank you. Following on from the previous discussion, has carbon offset, being looked at as an option, including carbon credits and investment in renewable, as a de-risking strategy for the cement industry?
So this is a bit of a political question. I don't know if you want to comment on this.
Actually, I still have to digest the question, to be honest.
So I think
can you formulate that a little bit more?
So, I mean, the question is the use of offsets as opposed to actually capturing. The issue, I think, is around whether or not it's credible for an industry that emits 7 or 8% of CO2 to say, well, we're going to use offsets to, say that we're decarbonizing.
Offset means buying emission certificates.
Yeah, buying emission certificates, yeah.
I don't think so, because that will be shooting through the sky.
So I think that it might play a small part, but I don't think the industry will be able to get away with saying we plant some forest here so we don't have to decarbonize the plant.
Yeah, I'm convinced it's not going to be the only solution. I was talking about the transitional period and perhaps future direction when we can't get to 0%. Yeah.
So I think the issue in the transitional period is that if we're thinking about it now, then if you're producing 1 million tons of cement, you're going to need 600,000 tons of carbon offsets. And even if you buy relatively low quality carbon offsets, that are forestry based and so on, it's still going to be a very significant cost that your competitor may not have. And so I think that's the issue. The companies that are doing this at the moment, and particularly the ones buying the high quality offsets, have very small emissions relative to their revenues and profits. And so for them, they look good and they spend little money. But for the cement industry, we're not in that situation. If we were to buy high carbon offsets, it would double our costs, triple our costs. Yeah. So at the back there, sorry.
It's a good question. First, I'm Magid Mustafa, Arabian Cement Company. I would like to ask Mr. Lee, especially because in China, like the same in the Middle East countries, we are still somehow not improving in the TSR percentage or the conventional methods of reducing CO2. Yeah. So is this the time not to invest in alternative fuel or conventional methods to reduce CO2 and to save this money for the new future of the CCU or other new technologies which will emerge in the next years, rather than spending the money now on the somehow old technologies?
So your question is, should we spend money on increasing AFR usage instead of, for example, carbon capture? Is that right?
Opposite. Is this the time to stop spending on the conventional methods like alternative fuel or something and save this money for the future projects which will reduce much more CO2? Because alternative fuel will reduce minor CO2, still the burning, not the processing CO2.
So if I get your question right, is should we stop spending money on AFR projects so that we can spend it later on carbon capture? Is that right?
Yeah.
Ching, I don't know if you'd like to.
Yes, you're right. It's currently it's a cheaper and efficient way is AFR replace the fossil fuel. And the second, with the development, the new technology, and the low cost and the capex loss and the operation cost, and the new is the CCUS, we can install the new technology, capture and store and use for the carbon. Right.
So I think your question was just thinking about the priority for investment. Is it still worth investing in AFR today, or should you be saving that money and investing it in carbon capture later?
Firstly, from my point, we spend the money to the AFR and some increase and enhance efficiency for the cement and decrease the clinker factor. Decrease clinker. This is very not so big. But for the capture of the CCUS, I think the later development, waiting the development the new and the low cost and the low the operation cost.
Okay.
Maybe additionally, there's a clear rationale supporting this position because if you spend on AFR, you will classically have a return on invest between 3 and maximum 6 years. And you need these 6 years to have the new technologies developed and specifically to have your carbon route downstream developed. So a clear yes. Go ahead with AFR now, go ahead with SCM now, reducing clinker factor, and go ahead with artificial intelligence-driven plant optimizers. You'll have return on invest cycles much below the time you need to install the new technologies.
So, Matthias, Yeching, thank you very much, and really appreciate your contribution. So, everyone, please, thank you.